Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parujaka Ashtotar Tadashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parujaka Ashtotar Tadashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So, let's see where we are here. Yes. Did we do 19 or was it? We did 18. That means we're on 19.
Yes, sir, we are on 19.
19. Thank you, Tapas. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 26th day of October, 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 16 entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures, and we're on text 19. Tan Aham Dvishatak Kruran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapami Ajasram Ashubhan Asurishu Evayonishu Tanaham Dushatak Kruran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Yajasram Ashubhan Asurishveva Yonishu Tanaham Dushatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Yajasram Ashubhan Asurishveva Yonishu Tanaham Dushatakuran Samsareshu naradhaman Chapam vijasham ashubhan Asuri sheva yonishu. I'm sorry, did I mention the page number 632? Okay. Tanaham dvishatakuran Samsareshu naradhaman Chapam vijasham ashubhan Asuri sheva yonishu. Go ahead, Dimitri. Tanaham dvishatakuran Samsareshu naradhaman Chapam vijasham asubhan Asuri sheva yonishu. Tanaham dvishatakuran Samsareshu naradhaman Chapam vijasham ashubhan Asuri sheva yonishu. Go ahead, Babu. Tanaham dvishatakuran Samsareshu naradhaman Chapam vijasham ashubhan Asuri sheva yonishu. Tanaham dvishatakuran Samsareshu naradhaman Chapam vijasham ashubhan Asuri sheva yonishu. Zoomland.
Tanaham dvishatakuran
Tanaham dvishatakuran
Samsareshu naradaman
Samsareshu naradhaman
Kshipami ajasram ashubhan
Chapam vijasham ashubhan
Asurish eva yonishu.
Asuri sheva yonishu. Anyone else out there?
Tanaham dvishatah kruran
Tanaham dvishatakuran
Sansareshu naradhaman
Samsareshu naradhaman
Kshipami ajastram Ashubhana
Chapam vijasham ashubhan
Asuri sveva yonishu.
Asuri sheva yonishu. One more.
Tanaham dvishatakuran
Tanaham dvishatakuran
Samsareshu naradhaman
Samsareshu naradhaman
Chapam yajashram ashubhan
Chapam vijasham ashubhan
Asuri shveva yonishu.
Asuri sheva yonishu. Tan, those, aham, I, vishatak, envious, kruran, mischievous, samsareshu, into the ocean of material existence, nara adaman, the lowest of mankind. Chapami, I put ajasram, perpetually, ashubhan, inauspicious, asurishu, demoniac, eva, certainly, yonishu, into the wombs. Now, this gentleman needs a book. Do we have any more books? Oh, you have your own book. Okay, good. All right. Page 633. Translation. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly indicated that the placing of a particular individual's soul in a particular body is the prerogative of the supreme will. The demoniac person may not agree to accept the supremacy of the Lord, and it is a fact that he may act according to his own whims. But his next birth will depend upon the decision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not on himself. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, it is stated that an individual's soul after his death is put into the womb of a mother where he gets a particular type of body under the supervision of superior power. Therefore, in the material existence, we find so many species of life, animals, insects, men, and so on. All are arranged by the superior power. They are not accidental. As for the demoniac, it is clearly said here that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons, and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Such demoniac species of men are held to be always full of lust, always violent and hateful, and always unclean. The many kinds of hunters in the jungle are considered to belong to the demoniac species of life. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, now we're learning about the fate of the demons. And this word Kruran, many of you know the name Akrura. Akrura is Krishna's uncle, who came and took away the gopis, took away Krishna from the gopis, sorry. And his name means not cruel. Krura and cruel. There's a lot of cognates, words in Sanskrit that say, well, that sounds just like English. Like Harinam as a name, and this word Krura, Tumalo means tumultuous, and many like that. So here we see that Krishna himself, first of all, that Dvishita means they're envious. Now, one thing to remember when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, he uses this word envious in two distinct ways. In modern English that we speak, it's basically one way, and that is you're jealous of someone that someone else has. And there's a certain amount of enmity there also. But it has that basic idea that you don't have something that someone has and you think you should have it. Envious of what you have. But envious has a broader meaning, and because I work with words all the time. Long ago I looked this up because Prabhupada uses it. This is like one passage, I forget where it is. One should not be envious even of an ant. Well, what can we be envious of an ant? What does an ant have that you want, But that's not what the meaning is. There's another meaning to envious, and if you look in the Oxford English Dictionary, which is a good source to find these other meanings, because Prabhupada learned English in the early 20th century from the English. Then he went to Scottish Churches College, so it's all English. So envious can also mean just to bear malice toward, to be, not that you want something of someone, but you just have an enmity toward them. So keep in mind that, and that's what it means here. Dvishita has both these meanings. And mischievous, who are the lowest among men. Now, this is not to say, as we all, it seems like Krishna's, sometimes Prabhupada is always talking about men. What about the ladies? Ladies can be demons also. So they're equal opportunity. We have Putana. In my book, Putana was the worst of the worst. Her modus operandi was to find little children and drink their blood. Now, what could be more horrible than that? And she thought she was going to do the same thing with Krishna. So, Kuran, Sangsareshu Naradaman. Nara Adaman. Adama means low, Adha. And they're the lowest of men, the lowest of human beings. Chapami really means to throw. I throw them, I cast them perpetually into inauspicious demoniac wombs. In other words, again and again they take that birth. So one thing that I was thinking of as I was reading this verse in purport is that our character, our nature, is developed over time. And the key element is, as always, association. As you associate, so you shall become. Prabhupada would always quote this line from the second chapter. It's a famous line, and that Sangat Sanjayate Kama. There's two verses in the second chapter where Krishna describes in very graphically how you become entangled and absorbed and you get drawn down into Maya. Dhyayato vishayan pungsa sangas teshu bhajayate. That means that as you meditate on or you become absorbed in the object of the senses, you develop attachment for them. And as I always point out, because it's so ubiquitous, meaning everywhere, advertising. You notice how the social media, Facebook, etc., what they're really selling, And what their currency is your attention. Your attention. If they can make you click again on this, then this is where they can sell your interests. You know, oh, he clicked 3 times on this thing. He must be a carpenter, so we'll advertise some new hammer or something. I mean, that's right. I mean, this is what they sell. So they're trying to get your attention. Your attention is everything. What's offensive? Inattentive chanting, right? So we're paying attention to something, meaning we're paying attention to something that may please our senses, rather than to Krishna, which is meant to take that lust, that desire, and transfer it to Him. So in human life, we have a higher intelligence, and we can direct the senses, how we associate with, who we associate with, what we associate with. And that's everything. I like to quote this verse. I think I quoted it last time. From Kapila Dev. Prasangam majanam pasham. Now, one thing to note, this word sangha, as in satsanga. I bet if you looked in the modern English dictionary, you'd find that word. Satsang. It's because, you know, Indians, they've lived in America for so long, you know, a lot of these words, English is like a big vacuum cleaner. It takes in all kinds of words. There's French words, there's Arabic words, everything. So, Sangha, or this verse by Kapila Dev, he immediately focuses on Sangha. Prasangam ajadam pasham atmanak kavayo vidu. So Sangha can mean association and attachment. This is a common thing, is that a word means something, but it also means what results from that thing. Just like we have the word gati. Now, gati commonly means the goal, but it also means the means to the goal, doesn't it? Right. And we sing 2 songs every day. The Guru Vashtaka and the song Shri Guru Charana Padma. That same word is used. Shri Guru Charana Rate Ese Uttama Gati. The best means of advancement is attraction for the lotus feet of the Guru. Right? Shri Guru Charana Rati. When there's some attraction there, then you're much more willing to serve. This is how Prabhupada started this movement. He just was able to associate with some people there in the Lower East Side, and a few of them, by chanting Hare Krishna, they became attracted to him. They wanted to serve him, you know, in so many ways. And all he was asking them to do was all the processes of devotional service. Because Srila Prabhupada was actually attractive because he was, I don't know if I use this word, channeling, you know, he was reflecting Krishna. It was Krishna. Ultimately, it's Krishna who's all attractive. The very name or word Krishna means to attract. Karshati. Karshati means to pull, to attract. So, we want to be attracted by Krishna. But at present, when we're in Maya, in the modes of nature, we have these strong ropes of attraction and attachment to things of this world. And this way, prasangam. Sangha means attachment. Pra, and Prabhupada would always say, prakrishta rupena, means that it amplifies. So if there's sangha, and prasangha means strong attachment, strong, you know, due to prolonged association. Ajadam pasha means very strong ropes of attachment. So what are we going to do with those? It's like our mind at the present moment is our worst enemy, because it's filled with all of these unfulfilled desires and reservoirs of envies of other people has, and enmity and all this stuff, lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness. 6 enemies in the mind. Or 6 or 7, I forget how many. So, are we helpless? No. No. Because if we are able to associate with sadhus, or a sadhu, who is potent enough to plant the seed of desire or faith in our heart, in the process of devotion, that at least let's try it, then you can begin to loosen and even cut these strong ropes. So therefore, what this verse says, prasangam atmana kavayo vidu, those who are kavis, those who are wise, they know that these very strong ropes of attachment has to be redirected, you know, gradually, but, you know, firmly, towards sadhus themselves. So then you find you have 2 influences. It's not just varieties of Maya that your mind is moving in, which is usually the case. You know, oh, I'm making improvement. I'm coming out of the mode of ignorance into the mode of passion. No, that's not. That's the Western psychology. Someone has no, you know what the word affect means? He knows. ahedonistic. Ahedonic means, oh, this person can't enjoy themselves in the world. They're too much in the mode of, they're depressed. They can't enjoy anything. Let's get them to enjoy. Then it's some kind of victory. To move from the mode of ignorance to the mode of passion, that's a pretty low bar, isn't it? I mean, we want to go to the mode of goodness and to the mode of pure goodness. So, these strong attachments, they have to be redirected toward the sadhus. And he describes who a sadhu is. He's a very tolerant, very compassionate, friend of all, unalloyed devotee to me. Kapila Deva is an incarnation of Krishna. And he goes on like that, describing pure devotee. So what's the advantage? The advantage is, the basic advantage, you will hear. You will hear transcendental vibration, beginning with the holy name, especially in the modern age. And all of the glories of Krishna, the instructions of Krishna. And if you're inspired and moved to try the process, under the guidance of that, this sadhu, then you can actually begin to loosen those bonds and loosen those ropes that are tying us to this world. And can bring us all the way down into this demoniac mentality. Because it's just like a disease. If you don't do anything to cure the disease or allay the disease, and it can get chronic, it can get worse, and it can just completely change your life. We've seen that. So the disease of Maya and the disease of lust, and it's called like that, in the very last verse, this is great. The very last verse of the 5 chapters in the 10th canto describing the rasa dance, this lust is described as a disease. Hridrogam. Kama, hridrogam. Kama is lust, which is the disease of the heart. It's cured. Who knows how it's cured? By hearing the rasa dance. By hearing Krishna's pastimes. It's an antidote. So certainly everything we do, Krishna himself, everything related to Krishna, especially in this age, this transcendental sound vibration it's called the bhavaushadhi. Bhava means the disease of birth and death, entanglement in the material world. So right at the beginning of the 10th canto, which is the summum bonum of the whole book, Krishna's most attractive pastimes, it says, Parikrit Maharaj is encouraging Shukadeva, now please describe to me these pastimes. Nivritta tarshayat upagiyamanad bhavaushadhat shrota mano biramad ka uttama shloka gunanavanan puman varajeta vina pashugnat. Very important verse. So first he qualifies it. Not only is it Krishna's glories and pastimes, but when they're vibrated, when they're spoken by those who are free of material desire, in other words, pure devotees. Nivritta tarsha, the word tarsha means thirst or strong desire. Those who are free of strong material desire, pure devotees, upagiyamana, when they sing these glories, but it acts as a bhavaushadhi, which exactly means a medicine to cure the disease of birth and death. Bhava means change, and it's a shortcut word for meaning birth, old age, disease, and death, because it's just a bunch of changes again and again and around and around. And it's not a bitter medicine. Shrota mano abhiramat. It delights the ear and the mind. What's not to like? And that's the point of this verse. Who would give it up? Except those who are committing spiritual suicide, and especially the word is pashugnat, which has 2 meanings. Pashu is an animal, and that means to kill. Those who are gross meat eaters, it's hard for them to get the interest. I remember I was just an ordinary Westerner. I like to point out, I remember when McDonald's was founded, when it came to my little town that I was living in. I said, oh, now before our bowling session every Friday night, we can go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger. Everywhere. Now billions, multi-billions have been sold, Yeah, some multi-billions have been sent to hell, with this. So Pashugna, those who are too much involved in killing animals, cruel, you use that word cruel, that's cruel. It's very hard for them to take up this process. It's possible, but they soon realize you have to give up meeting, otherwise it's crazy. And then Pashugna also means killing yourself, killing your soul. Those who are just too much involved in the modes of nature, So otherwise, those who are a little interested, those who are curious, open the book and read, they're blessed. Even just a little exposure to the transcendental sound vibration. So Krishna is speaking about those who are these Prashugnas. They're fixed in their vow to stay demons. Just like Prahlad Maharaj. He was preaching to his father. If his father had only taken the good instruction, he would have become a devotee. But it's the last thing he wanted to hear. Prabhupada always likes to quote the first verse of instruction. Just try to visualize this scene. Here's this huge, enormous, powerful demon who's conquered the universe. Narada Muni said, even I was bound down to him. All the demigods except Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Vishnu, who's not exactly demigod, they were not bowing. And everyone else was afraid, and they were deferring to Hiranyakashipu. And here's his son, I think his eldest son, beloved son, and he wants to know how he's progressing in his demonic education. He wanted to train him up, be the next big demon. So he asked him, what is the best thing you learned today? And there was no hint that he wasn't learning, Machiavellian thing, enemies, friends, the whole thing. So he says, tat sadamanye sudavarya dehinam sada samudvignadiyam asadgrahat hitvatmapatam griyamandakupam vanam gatoyad Hadamashriyeta. And those last words struck him like a snake biting him. Hadamashriyeta, take shelter of Hari, of Krishna, who killed my brother. Hiranyaksha had been killed already by Varaha. It's the last thing you expect to hear. But Prahlad is just this small little 5-year-old boy. So he didn't blame him, he blamed the teachers, Shanda and Amarka. He described how he looked at them. And they said, we didn't tell him this, we didn't teach him this. I don't know where he got it. He got in the womb. He was instructed in the womb. So what does it mean? He says, oh best of the demons. Prabhupada points out he didn't call him father. He says, Asura Varya, the best of the demons, leading of the demon. The best thing I learned, sadhu manne. The word sadhu can mean sadhu, or it can mean the best, or bravo, like that. Tat sadhu manne asura varya dehinam. Best for whom? For the embodied soul, for every embodied soul. Who in the material world, sada samudvigna diyam, whose consciousness is always disturbed. And you realize this is the nature of material life. It's always disturbed. There are always unfulfilled desires. There are always dangers. There are always anxieties, And people try to distract themselves from that. This intoxication, entertainment, sports, all of this stuff, just to try so we don't have to remember our precarious condition here. This is one of the silver linings, I would call them, of the cloud of the COVID pandemic. No one can forget. Suddenly the whole world is very conscious of their precarious condition. Now, without a hint of Krishna consciousness or some hope, it's a very distressing situation. There's a lot of mental health problems from that. All this lockdown, being alienated, being, like that. So, but devotees, every day we learn that. We're meant to think that. Every moment we may think, this may be our last moment, we better chant Hare Krishna. Why are we always told, chant unceasingly? Because life is so precarious. You want to have the mind trained so that whatever happens, you can remember Krishna. Because it doesn't come automatically until you're a pure devotee. So he's going on telling his father, for the mass of people who are always disturbed, some udvigna diyam, a sadgrahat. In those 4 syllables, he's analyzed the whole root of the problem. Asat grahat means holding fast for dear life to what is temporary, to what is not. Shukadeva Goswami at the beginning of the 2nd canto, he says the same thing. Deha patakaratradish atma sanyeshu asatva pi tesham brahmato nidanam pashyan apina pashyati. He says, for the ordinary persons, you have certain soldiers. He calls them fallible soldiers, which you try to defend against the onslaughts of the material energy. The first is your strong body. I was pointing out, Vijay mentioned it in the class because I was chanting out there and I looked across the way. And the sun hasn't risen. It's like 6 o'clock. And they're already in the gym, and they're working the things, and they're doing the thing. So they're having their morning program. They're meditating on making the body strong, and we're meditating on making the spirit strong. But we have a morning program. So a satgrahat means you're holding on to the impermanent for shelter. In this verse by Shukadev, he says you have the body, you have the children, the wife, the relatives, and so many things, bank balance. And these are meant to defend you against the onslaughts of the material world. but they're, what is it, asatsu. Deha pattakaratadush atma sainya. Saina means a soldier or an army. Asatsu. In other words, they always fail. It's a foolish hope. It's a fool's errand to try to find some defense. Even if you have a whole army, or many armies and all the nuclear weapons in the world, you're still, the foundation is this little body of yours that's a very fragile machine. And once that starts getting old, there's nothing you can do, or injured. But people are so mad that even though they know this, that this is all, these are all hopeless defenses against the onslaughts of material energy. This famous phrase, Pashana bina pashati, although seeing, they really don't see. They don't understand the deep meaning of this, and that the only shelter you can find is a spiritual shelter. You have to find the Supreme Spirit, God, the source of everything, if you really want safety and happiness and security. So, Prahlad says, yes, sir, give it up. Give up this materialistic household life, which is like a blind well, where all of your attention is within the bank balance and the children and all of this thing and the job and all these things that are just fleeting. They're traps for your consciousness. You're meant to be striving toward eternity, and you're putting all your faith in the temporary. So he says, give it up and go to the forest. And the comment is, the forest means Vrindavan. And what are you going to do in Vrindavan? Take shelter of Hari, Krishna. So Hiranyakashipu was very angry at this. He didn't want to hear. So they'll never hear. The demons means that their serious demons are incorrigible. So that's who Krishna is speaking about here. And I perpetually cast him into the ocean of material existence. So it's one suffering after another. And many lower species, that's also happening, So he's describing here, we're coming to the end of the chapter. And he's describing this fate of embracing the demoniac mentality. And we have that freedom. Even in our movement, I'll tell you, I'm not going to name any names by any chance, but we've had devotees. Mostly, devotees find difficulty following the principles, or they weaken their sadhana, but they still have affection or care for Prabhupada, like that. But a few become enemies of the movement, even of Prabhupada. Believe it or not, it's a kind of madness. You can see that they've become impossible. So this is what the demons are, because even Hiranyakashipu, he used to be a devotee, Jaya Vijaya in Vaikuntha, and all of us, where we came from, every living entity used to be in the spiritual world. This is Prabhupada's understanding, and this is our understanding. So we've lost that. That means our real nature has been very much covered over. And Krishna consciousness is a process of reawakening that real nature, the actual nature of the soul, and taking shelter of that which can really give safety, which is Krishna's lotus feet and devotional service. So, any discussion on this verse?
Hare Krishna.
We got a local question here from our Bhakta, Daniel.
Thank you, Dravida Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, you were talking about how the soul, we purify the soul by chanting. But isn't the soul already eternal and blissful and knowledgeable?
Yes, the soul is eternally pure. There's a phrase from the Upanishad, asango hyayam purusha, which means the soul never really associates with the material energy. But the problem is that when we turn away from Krishna, we become absorbed in the dualities of this world. And we identify with the particular body we're in. It's all an illusion, but it's very real. It's like the most real dream you can imagine. Sometimes dreams are so real, you're in a nightmare, you're sweating, you wake up screaming and say, oh, thank God that's just a dream. But then there's the other side where you're having a very nice dream, and then you wake up and say, well, I'd like to go back to sleep. Again. So Prabhupada said it's the daydream and the night dream. A daydream has one meaning, but it means that your ordinary life during the day is also a dream, because we're absorbed in what is ultimately unreal. This is right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satak, ubayoda vidrastontastvanayastatvadarshibhi. For the asat, another word for this asat is non-existent. There's no sustenance of existence. It comes into being, and then it stays, and then it goes. And that's the definition of unreal. And for the Sat, there's no going out of existence. It endures eternally. So purifying the soul, the soul is eternally pure, but means purifying the soul of these misconceptions so that you can actually exist in reality. You can wake up. So it's a question of purifying our consciousness, purifying the mind and the senses. Prabhupada quoted this verse 1,000,000 times. Atakshi Krishna namadi nababe grayam indriyai. Sevan mukhehi jivado swayam eva spuratida. With our present contaminated, imperfect senses and mind, we cannot see or cannot perceive the real nature of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. But if you begin serving, beginning with the tongue, chanting the holy name, hearing, tasting prasad, then eventually you become purified, and the Lord reveals Himself to you progressively according to your purity. So in the morning class, Lord Rishabdev, his first teaching, his most famous verse, Nayam deho deha bhajang loke krishtang kamanara David brajangye. My dear sons, he says, those who have achieved the human form of life should not waste their precious human form by struggling hard to get sense gratification on the level of the hogs that eat stool. Instead, perform divine penance or austerity. Tapo divyam putraka, my dear sons. What will that do? Yena sattvam shuddhyed, you'll purify your existence. And what will that help you do? Then you become more and more eligible and able to taste and enjoy Brahma Saukya, spiritual happiness, which doesn't end and doesn't decrease. Real spiritual happiness is on the spiritual plane and goes on forever. So that's completely unknown to the materialists. They're always searching for the next flickering happiness thing, knowing full well that it'll be temporary. But that's all they know. So, it all leads to tremendous suffering. So that's what we want to purify: the mind, the senses, and the intelligence that can be purified. We have one more here from Dimitri Prabhu.
Okay, so I just want to ask, what do we know about Prahlad Maharaj's mother?
Kwitajiti. What happened to her?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure she's mentioned in the seventh canto. I may be wrong, but her time on the stage, so to speak, is when Hiranyakashipu was performing severe austerities. She was pregnant with Prahlad, and the demigods wanted to arrest her and then kill Prahlad when he took birth, because he's, the demon. Narada Muni comes and says, let her come to my ashram. You won't be able to kill Prahlad. He's a great devotee. So on Narada's word, they gave her over to him. And the contrast was that Narada was giving her instruction. She was hearing everything. But Prahlad was only hearing that. Her mind was on her husband. When will he come back? I mean, this strange man, She wasn't hearing. So I think in the purport there, it didn't stick. It didn't stay with her. And as far as I know, that's the last we hear of her. Okay, go ahead. We're not forgetting you, Vijay. You're next.
Yes, I can wait, no problem.
So in relation to that, so Krishna says here he'll put all these envious and mischievous in Asurisvesh eva yonishu. Asurisvesh eva yonishu. In the wombs of the demoniac.
Yes.
Like how Prahlad Maharaj came into the womb of, like these are all demoniac family only, right?
Well, that doesn't mean that everyone, every single soul that's born of the demons is a demon. There are great exceptions like Prahlad. But here he's just talking about the general principle. If you're demoniac, incorrigible. This word incorrigible is really good. It means can't be corrected by any amount of good instruction. Then you'll be punished. You'll be thrown into the degradation. Okay, you're on, Vijay.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, my humble obeisances.
Likewise.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. In the synonyms I find samsareshu, into the ocean of material existence. And in the translation I find, quote, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life, end quote. So my question is, why is it that material existence is compared to an ocean?
Oh, well, that's easy. He's throwing me softball questions. You know. Maybe you don't know that. Yeah, it's often called like Bhava Sagara, Bhava Sindhu. You know, it's often called to an ocean. What is it about an ocean? And what's the other analogy commonly? Fire, right? Samsara dhava nalalidala. So both of those situations are very dangerous, and you're actually helpless without higher intervention. Prabhupada would tell you, if you're in an ocean, and you may be the best swimmer, you know, but you're in the middle of the ocean, you can't do much, you know. But if somehow a helicopter comes, you know, and just lifts you up 2 inches, oh, I'm safe, you know. So the idea is that the ocean is a very dangerous place in which we can't really do anything on our own. We need help. We need higher help. The same thing with the fire. You know, only if the rains come, you know, Bhagavad would say, then the rains come, now you'll be saved. So the rain of mercy. Sangsara dhavananda lokatanaya kadun ganaganatvam. He has the nature of a cloud pouring down this rain of mercy that's extinguishing our blazing forest fire of, you know, suffering in the material world. Of course, we have to do so much work, you know, but we have a chance. So the idea is this helplessness. There's another analogy that's not so used. That's the deep well, you know, blind well where you can't get out, but enough someone helps you. There's a beautiful prayer. Some of you have heard it before by Uddhava, when he's hearing the Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto, which is wonderful. I actually read the Uddhava Gita about the same time I read the Bhagavad Gita. That's the long story, back in 72. And anyway, so he's Krishna speaking the Uddhava Gita to him, and then he has this beautiful verse. He says, Tashtam janam sampatitam bilesman kalahina chudda sukhoru tarsham uru tarsham samudharayanam kripayabhavaga vachobirasin mahanubhava. So dashta means bitten. This wretched soul, myself, I've been bitten by the snake of time. I've fallen into the snake hole, bile, of the material world. And here I'm constantly being bitten by the snake of time. It's pushing me toward old age, disease, and death, and then around again, you know. So, dashtam janam sampatitam, fallen, completely fallen. Bile, smin. Kalahina, but despite the fact of being in this snake hole and being threatened by the snake of time, I still have a very strong desire to enjoy sense gratification. Shudra sukha. He says, insignificant happiness of pleasing the senses. This comes up again in the Bhagavatam. Urutarsham. So I need your mercy, Krishna. What does he say? Samudharayanam. Please lift me out of this hole. How? By sprinkling me within your nectarian words, which give me apavarga, which give liberation, you know. What does he say? Samudharayanam kripayapavarga, out of your mercy. Vachobir, your word. Vachobir asincha mahanubhava, O great Lord. So I was thinking, this is appropriate. Before we even read Bhagavad Gita, it would be great to, you know, it's a perfect verse for that. Now we're about to read Bhagavad Gita, we should pray to Krishna, please lift me out by your nectarian words. So that's also a helpless position. You're in a blind well, you've fallen down, there's a big snake in there. What can save you? Of course, we know that if the rope is come down, a rope of bhakti you can hang on to. So all of these analogies are meant to show our helplessness without the intervention and the mercy of Krishna and his devotees. Basically, that's where it comes in. Is that okay?
Again, better than okay. Monumental answer to my question. Thank you very much.
All right.
You're amazing, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, we have one from Dhanavari. Go ahead.
Yes, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. So I have two small questions. One is you mentioned that envy's other meaning is, and then other second question is, when you said rasa dansa, the karma will destroy if we listen, but then I read that if we are not qualified, we shouldn't read rasa dansa.
Oh, the rasa dance, yeah.
Yeah. So they both. How do we understand that?
Okay. And the first one was about the word envious.
Envious, you said meaning is two.
Yes,
two, and I
Prabhupada
didn't
uses it in two ways. That's an easy one. Envious, the common meaning that we all know is that someone else has something you want, and you think you should have it, and you have this feeling of envy toward that person. You know, there's also an element of enmity toward it, but it's mostly jealousy. But the other meaning of envy is just to bear malice toward someone. You know, that's why it comes in, don't be envious even of an ant. In other words, like I take my walk, and now is, you know, it's getting, the sun sets earlier, so it's pretty dark. I always have a flashlight. And I've come to know those sections of the sidewalk where there's going to be some bugs, because there's foliage on both sides. So they said the brave ones, they're going to cross over to get to the other side. But if there's no foliage on one side, then they don't cross. There's no bug. It happens that way. But one way or another, I don't want to step on any bugs, you know. So envious then means, who cares, you know? And really envious means taking pleasure in stomping on the bugs. I'll tell you, I'll confess, you know, I was headed toward a very dark, well, I'm hoping I'm saved by it, but now, when I was like 8 years old, 9, maybe 10, that age, 11, you know. And I lived in the suburbs, and so it was summer, and there was this big spider web that had, you know, it was in reach. It wasn't like up in the trees or something. And me and my friend said, oh, look, you see, he's caught a moth there, and he's wrapped him up, and then he's sucking his blood there. Oh, that's fascinating, you know. So we went around and started catching moths and throwing them into the web to see what would happen. Oh my God, you know. I remember that distinctly. I said, "Jeez, you know, I hope I've atoned for that one by now, you know." But that's envy. I was showing envy to the moth in the classical way that it's in the Oxford English Dictionary. And the reason I bring it up, because Prabhupada often uses that meaning in his books. And it may be a little puzzling. There's some others like that you have to watch for. Even the word purpose. Purpose, I know what purpose means. But it can also mean purport, the meaning. And at some other time, when I have a little more time, I'll illustrate in the introduction, right at the beginning of the introduction to Ishopanishad. It says, what is the purpose of the Vedas? Ultimately, the meaning of the Vedas is one, you know, like that. Well, obviously, purpose means purport. I looked it up in the Oxford English. In regular English dictionary, you won't find that. There's some others like that. So just be aware of that. Now, the other one, your other question was about? Oh, yes, the rasa dance. So, the thing is, the rasa dance is often gone to by those who are not really serious about studying Srimad Bhagavatam. They immediately go to that because it's like, entertainment you find on TV, you know. There's a lot of that in India. And you'll read that in the first canto. Prabhupada mentioned it several times. 7-day readings of the Bhagavatam, obviously an imitation of Parikit, you know. But no, Bhagavatam is meant to be studied every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. You're meant to serve it by hearing and studying every day, regularly. So that kind of jumping up to the rasa dance is counterindicated. And therefore, Prabhupada said, you know, we should only read it after going through the first 9 cantos and so forth like that. But then there's also this factor that Prabhupada gave us Krishna book long before he had, translated even the 3rd and 4th canon, what to speak of the 9th canon. Because devotees didn't know who Krishna was, and they needed to know, anyway, he stopped Bhagavatam and did the Krishna book in the 6 months or so. And there was the rasa dance. But if you read the rasa dance chapters, there's this long introduction in which it's very, very clear this is not mundane sex life, there's all of the intricacies of the internet. So, and then there's this one pastime, maybe I'll end here, and that is that in the early days, in the 70s, there was this, they had a lot of brahmacharis in Boston Temple, and they were going out and doing a lot of Harinam, and they would distribute magazines and Harinam, And there was some question, having trouble controlling their senses, So what to do? Probably, well, before you take rest, you should read this Rasa Dance chapter in the Krishna book, and that'll help you. So okay, maybe they started doing it, but it's right there. Then the reason is when you receive the knowledge and it's told to you by a bona fide spiritual master and guru, he's presenting it in all of the ways that prevent you from misconstruing it. And then it works its magic on helping you to understand to some degree, to beginning degree, the complete difference. And I'll tell you, if you really want to understand, at least theoretically, you read chapter 4 of the Adi Lila. There's this famous verse, Atmandriya Priti Vancha Tare Bali Kam Krishnendriya Priti Icha Dare Prem Nam. This is a famous verse, Bengali. The difference between kama and prema. And he says that desire to satisfy one's own senses, this is kama. Desire to satisfy Krishna's senses, this is prema. And this is why, despite the rasa dance seeming to be erotic, as we call it, it really isn't, because the gopis had one desire. They ran out in order to please Krishna's senses. Their only desire was to please him. And they dressed themselves that way. They ran out. They were so eager they didn't dress themselves so well sometimes. But that was their own desire. And Krishna reciprocated. He called them to him because he knew that they wanted to do that. And so he gave them an opportunity to serve in that way. So it's a different, it's 180 degrees opposite. It's 180 degrees. That ordinary boy-girl relations, illicit relations in this world is just the opposite. But Krishna's so-called parakiya ras, illicit relations, is the highest form of worship, as certified by none other than Lord Chaitanya himself. So it's a great mystery that's hard to understand in our present condition. But if we serve nicely and we go step by step and we study the books, we can begin to understand. And it serves as a tonic, an antidote. Enables us to control the senses.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna Prabhu. And Uddhav Gita is separate book than Gita, or is it that separate book?
Uddhav Gita is part of the 11th canto in the Bhagavatam. I forget the exact chapters, 10, 7 to 20 or something. It's a lot of chapters. I think it's longer than the Gita, actually. Number of chapters, number of verses. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, we
Hare
have 1
Krishna
minute.
Prabhu.
Time for a nice little shloka you've been waiting for. This is one that Giriraj Swami liked so much he had me send it to him. Virachaya mahidandam dinabando dayangva gatadihana babatta kachadanda mamasti niputata shatakoti nirmalang vanavambas tatapakila bayodak stuyate chatakena. The chataka subsists on rain. It catches in midair. And so it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chataka, I fix my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you send or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.
Very nice. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dravida Prabhu, are you the author of this poem?
I wrote the English. Rupa Goswami wrote the Sanskrit.
Oh, thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hari.
Amazing.
What verse? What is this poem from, Rupa Goswami? Is it in Bhagavatam?
It's in the Stavamala. I can send it to you.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Write to me.